It's a Friday, so it is time for the Notre Dame recruiting update here with Mike Singer and Kyle Kelly of Blue and Gold. Got a lot to talk about in the world of Notre Dame football. This is a recruiting show, but we're going to talk a little bit of spring football. We're going to talk recruiting, obviously, and we're going to, as always, interact with our live YouTube chat. Really appreciate everyone for being here live with us. For those who are watching back afterwards and or listening to the podcast version of this, as always, our request is for you to hit the thumbs up on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Blue and Gold, and go to blueandgold.com, of course, for all things Fighting Irish football and recruiting coverage. Our offer for you guys is that $1 for 2 months, just $1 if you're a new subscriber. That'll get you 2 months, and then you can make that decision on if you want to renew or not. But really, to try it out, that'll get you to, if you sign up today, through spring ball into the spring recruiting period. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. All right, there's my 90 seconds rambling. Kyle, you doing well on this Friday, my friend?
I think so, man. Got up at 4:15 in the morning yesterday for spring practice, and I usually get up at 6:30 during the work week. And
Me too.
Yeah, 6:30 p.m.
Oh, there you go.
For you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to figure it out. You're around at night, and I'm usually try to be up in the mornings. But
Sounds great.
yeah, I popped up in between those two numbers today, right at 5:30. So I've been rocking and rolling since the wee hours, and now ready to talk some Notre Dame football recruiting.
Yeah, no, I was up before 7 a.m. today. No, just after 7. Has nothing to do with a particular video game that I play in my free time. But that's neither here nor there. Devin in the chat knows. But yeah, we're gonna dive into today's show, and I figure, Kyle, let's start with spring ball. You were there along with Tyler Horka and Jack Sobel, and I'm just gonna pull up blueandgold.com because I thought the tremendous from yesterday really was the cover. Come on, Mike, words. The coverage from yesterday was tremendous. You can count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 articles to come out of spring practice. News, notes, observations. Everything between what Marcus Freeman had to say. So, check that out at blueandgold.com. But I know you were there, Kyle, obviously, along with Jack Sobel and Tyler Horka. What were your initial impressions of practice? Like, what was kind of your overall takeaways?
Yeah, so I mean, with 3 guys from Blue and Gold being there, the way we split things up is, one guy has the offense, one guy has the defense. We do that with our primary team writers, Jack Sobel and Tyler Horka. And then when I'm there, I kind of have a niche. And, usually for these first spring practices, my niche is typically watching, the early enrollee freshmen, the guys that we've covered for 2 and 3 years, guys that I've gotten to know pretty well personally, athletically. So always intriguing to see how those guys look in their first college practice. So that's where my focus primarily was yesterday. I wrote quite a bit about those freshmen and how they performed on Blue and Gold. The full recap of that is on Blue and Gold. That's about a 1,100-word piece where you can find all the details of those performances. But, while I was writing about the freshmen, I was also jotting down notes about what I saw from the other guys that were just popping out. And I feel like, one of the first things I saw was Jaden Thomas. Looks a little bit more cut, looks faster. And that was really encouraging sign because Jaden Thomas kind of end of the year, or, he was an afterthought. The best way to probably put it for most of the season in 2023 with that hamstring injury. It's good to see him healthy. And it seems like that's going to be an important piece for Riley Leonard because during the team and 7-on-7 portions of yesterday's practice, Jaden Thomas was definitely Riley Leonard's number 1 guy. That's where he was going the most. There was even some occasions where I thought he was forcing the ball. now we're really diving in a little bit too deep, with one spring practice, with some of these observations. But that is what I saw, and I wanted to make sure to put out right away after I saw um, after we finished up practice that I thought CJ Carr looked tremendous.
Mhm.
The biggest thing I want to summarize with CJ Carr is you can absolutely tell how important him getting to practice at Notre Dame was for those bowl practices. He was 100. He was absolutely comfortable. Like, he you could not tell that CJ was a freshman with the way he was handling the practice. He was going along with the flow. You could tell he had been there before. And he really played like it too. I mean, yeah, we're talking about practice here, as Allen Iverson would like to say, but I just saw he was dialed in the whole time. He was comfortable. His passes were on point. It just like really, really impressive
So
outing from CJ Carr.
let me. So is this to kind of take away from individual? Did he get to do team stuff like scout, like what? Not scout for spring ball, but like yeah, like third team like quarterbacking, like 11 on 11, 7 on 7. Like what kind of competitive periods and how did he look there?
Yeah, so I mean that a lot of the guys got team and 7-on-7 and inside run reps yesterday. I think the way Notre Dame kind of has it divided up with the quarterbacks is Marcus Freeman didn't specifically state like whether it be starting quarterback and backup quarterback battles, but he basically said Riley Leonard and Stephen Jelly are competing, and it's pretty easy to assume that's for the starting quarterback position, whereas CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie are competing as well, and some would assume for the backup. Which I've kind of found interesting the way Freeman phrased that because it's like, well, is he expecting one of his quarterbacks to leave? So anyway, yeah. As a result of that, CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie were getting a lot of the third team reps. They were splitting them up with the team and 7-on-7 drills. So yeah, CJ was in those types of settings. This just wasn't him standing around stationary, just throwing to Gino Gaduli during warm-ups or handing the ball off to the running backs. Like this
Yeah.
was actual live football. Well, I guess they weren't pads and all that, and not
Right.
like true 11-on-11. But yeah, I mean, about as close to a live setting as you're going to see at this point in spring ball and this time of the year, and that's why I was so impressed with the way CJ performed.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean, Devi here is saying if Minchie becomes the four, who do we think? I mean, uh, dude, if Riley's a starter, you would think one of the other three is going to leave. I think speculating at this point is not going to do anyone any good. So I don't, I don't want to do that. And I would sure Kyle would agree with me on that.
Can I
So
give you a hot take real quick, Mike?
I'm always here for hot takes.
I think Riley Leonard looked the worst out of Notre Dame's four quarterbacks yesterday, which is not an indictment on Riley Leonard. It's more so a credit to the quarterback room under Gino Gaduli on Marcus Freeman, the way they built that thing up. I thought Kenny Minchie looked really good. Steven Angeli, he's just seasoned at this point. You know what you're going to get from him. He is the steady hand. And obviously, those three guys, along with Carr, they've been there for a handful of practices, at least for Carr. And, the other guys have been there for a year or two.
Yeah.
So, they've had experience. With Riley Leonard, it was just kind of looked like he was knocking off the rust a little bit. So, no reason to sound the alarms at all. But I did just want to point out that, it's not really, like I said, an indictment on Riley Leonard's performance. I think it was more just so how well those other three guys played. And the Notre Dame quarterbacks room is very strong right now.
And Jason says Riley's the only one yesterday with their it was his first practice. Yeah, which and I think that also speaks to I mean, dude, this is his first spring practice at Notre Dame. All right, I wanted to ask you about a few others, Kyle, a little quick hitter style. Kingston, what'd you think about him?
Yeah, kind of the same thing that Marcus Freeman said time and time again. Like you can see this guy has a chance. He's not built like most other freshmen, as you can see. And the thing that's most impressive about him is he is a bigger guy, as you can see. Like, look at him right next to Jack Kaiser there. Like, Kingston has got more muscle mass on him and a little bit thicker, but he's explosive. He has short area quickness. He has a burst. He can close on guys. And I saw some ups and downs from him yesterday, which can be expected from the freshman. There was a 7-on-7 rep where he smothered Kedron Young. Kedron still caught the pass, which was pretty impressive, but he was on Kedron like glue. And, trying to defend the running back out of the backfield like that is pretty challenging for a running back, just, kind of the proximity you are to him and that sort of thing. And then KVA matched it up against Jeremiah Love, and Jeremiah Love kind of schooled him, which
To be
not
expected.
really a huge surprise because like I even put on the board like Jeremiah Love could honestly play receiver. He could play wide receiver at a lot of schools and probably wide receiver at Notre Dame. So yeah, he's a heck of a receiving threat. So no surprise that he kind of got the best of Kingston Villiamo out on that best rep. But yeah, we're talking about guys that should be high school seniors in math classes and getting ready for prom out there on the college football field against guys that have a lot of reps already under their belt.
Okay. All right. A couple more. Bryce Young, what'd you think?
Did not get to see a whole ton of the defensive line in Bryce Young. I think I did shoot this video though, so I was just like examining this physical specimen that Bryce Young is, and that's exactly what he is at this point in his college career. Is just a kind of a freak show physical athlete. So I was not able to see a whole lot from him. I just remember all I can think about with Bryce Young is what he looked like 2 summers ago when Notre Dame
Yeah.
offered and what he looks like now, and it's completely different. I know everyone's, like, really excited about the opportunity for, Bryce Young to be able to compete as a freshman and see some playing time. I'm not quite there yet. Obviously, it's pretty hard for freshmen to play meaningful snaps, especially on the defensive line at Notre Dame. But like, I mean, he definitely has a profile. So that's a guy that I didn't get to see yesterday a whole lot, but I'm really excited to see how he develops throughout the spring.
Yeah. I remember when we were doing like a staple article on signing days, like here's the 5 true freshmen that are going to that have a good chance to play. So Jack Sobel wrote that for us. I gave him the 5 that I thought he should write about, and he agreed with me. And of course, I didn't pull the 5 names out of my butt. Made some calls, and I would say the 5 was Kedron Kingston, maybe Aeneas,
Micah,
Micah, and Cam. So Micah, everyone wants to talk about Cam Williams, and rightfully so. But a lot of people, and Goolsby's been loving up Micah Gilbert, but I think Micah Gilbert might be more college ready to play right now than Cam. And I hate saying that because it that kind of seems like it's gonna belittle Cam a little bit. But Cam, if you're watching, bro, my point of saying this is to hype up Micah Gilbert. Cam's a fantastic receiver as well. I think he's gonna play this year too. But Gilbert, I mean, I watched all the clips you guys took yesterday, obviously. So, which by the way, I forgot to mention, um, Tyler and Kyle shooting for us at blue and gold are only able to do so for the first 5 periods of practice. So it's stretching and it's individual drills and yeah, routes on air. So when when Tyler and Jack did the video yesterday, they're talking about practice and they're talking about the scrimmage, and we're showing stretching footage. Like I'd be watching that, I'd be like, "What the hell? Like, show us what you're talking about." We can't because we're not able to get that footage. Notre Dame doesn't allow us to. So I wanted to throw that out there. So yeah, Mikey Gilbert though, dude, he I don't know, man. I think he's gonna be ready to play this year. What do you think? And what did you think from him yesterday?
I think you're right. He was one guy that I outlined just popped off compared to the other guys. And I love this clip because just watch the way he catches this ball. I mean, he's
Nice
just
snag.
such a natural pass catcher. I mean, he's got the pedigree. His cousin is Darrelle Revis, I think. I know Darrelle Revis is one of his family members. I can't remember the affiliation. I think it is his cousin. Micah's brother saw some time in the NFL and played a lot, like that spring league, the XFL or USFL. Um, and he is more seasoned than Cam Williams. You could see it. He is a more fluid route runner at this point. And he looked the part. He looked like he fit in with the older guys yesterday. And Notre Dame's wide receiver core, they went from being really young last year to being really old this year when you have Jayden Thomas, Deion Colsey, both senior guys, and then the transfers they brought in with Jaden Harrison, who looked, I thought, phenomenal yesterday. The
Mhm.
speedster from Marshall, and then Chris Mitchell from Florida International. They're those are some pretty old guys that played college football for 4 years, and I don't think you could point, at least in the individual drills, and if you had no idea who those guys were, I don't think you'd be able to pick Micah Gilbert out as the freshman. Other than he's a little bit less physically developed than those guys right now, but even then, I mean, he's a good solid 210, 215 pounds. And I want to share the sentiment that you did with Cam Williams because, like, this isn't putting Cam down at all. And this is what I find so freaking frustrating about covering recruiting and covering high profile guys because everyone expects them to be 5 stars right away. And that was never going to be the case with Cam Williams. And we're talking about practice number one right here. What we saw from Cam yesterday was exactly what I expect. Guy that's still learning how to run routes and guy that's going to flash. And he did both those things. He faced some walk-on defensive backs at parts of practice yesterday, and there was times they got the better reps than him. Then there was later on, and by the time he got settled in, Cam was blowing by those guys. And you're like, yep, there it is right there. That's a Cam Williams that the recruiting services see as a potential 5 star guy that can be a day one, day two NFL draft pick. So I am just really excited to see how Cam develops under Mike Brown because like he's a mold of clay right now. Like what he was asked to do at the high school level is not going to be similar to what he's asked to do in college.
Yeah.
And when you see, assuming Mike Brown's there for the majority of Cam's career, I think with the way he develops Cam, we're going to see him end up being exactly what we thought he was as a recruit.
Yeah. That was one of my takeaways too in watching the practice clips. Was Jaden Harrison, dude, the body type. Again, folks, the body type, not the skill level, not the play style, the body type. I'm going to repeat that one more time because I know how people can hear something and that's all they hear. So I'm going to say again, the body type of Jaden Harrison remind me of Tyreek Hill.
I
That
knew where you're
short,
going with
yeah, the
that.
shorter, stockier, like even kind of the way they like just watching the few clips of Harrison run those little comeback, through the bags, running through the bags and everything. I don't know, like it was like, all right, so I texted Notre Dame source and I was like, I said, yo, is Jaden Harrison low key a baller? like, um, but my understanding is Harrison's brought in to be, and we're going to get into your regularly scheduled programming, talking about recruiting here. But listen, you guys are Notre Dame football junkies. I'm sure you're okay with 20 minutes of spring practice talk. Um, but yeah, he's like brought in to be a special teams player, a guy who might not be a high volume target, but when he does get target, he's kind of one of those guys like catch the bubble and take it. Like that's what they're thinking. Not some, but I think he might end up being a more high profile receiver. Now you have Jaden Faison and Jaden Greathouse, Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse working out. There's so many damn Jadens on this team, dude, working out of the slot too. But part of my take on my Monday and Wednesday show, I don't know if you got to watch either of those, Kyle, that I love Faison. I'm not as high on him as everyone else. Partly it's because there's just a lot of guys vying for some of those slot reps. And Harrison, I think, is one of them. And my source texted back about Harrison and said he's fast. Notre Dame hasn't had that in a while, like his level of speed. So Lots of excitement there. I don't know if you had anything else to add on that before we dive into recruiting Kyle, but in the meantime here, got a few questions to ask you guys, as I always do on a fine Friday when we have this show. Are you a displaced corporate executive? Are you wanting to put your career in your own hands? Maybe you're an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify. Andy Ludicky can help you out if you're answering yes to any of these questions. Andy's a huge college sports fan, and he's a franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses. Using Andy's expertise, he's going to help you find your American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. So give Andy a call and put your life and career in your own hands. And best of all, his services are 100% free to use. So what do you have to lose? Find your perfect franchise at myperfectfranchise.net. Give Andy a call at 404-973-9901, myperfectfranchise.net. Not even going to lie, Kyle. I basically have that ad read memorized at this point. But you wanted to add something else, my friend?
Yeah, the days of Notre Dame playing 12 and 13 personnel, which basically means 2 and 3 tight ends on the field and ground and pound football, I think those are going to be days of the past. Now, Notre Dame is always going to be that type of team. That's the identity of the program. Marcus Freeman has always said Notre Dame is an offensive and defensive line driven program, and that's just another way of saying that we're a 12 and 13 personnel offense. But with Mike Denbrock in the fold now and the personnel that they have at wide receiver, you are going to be seeing 4 wide receivers on the field a lot more for Notre Dame because they got the guys that can do it this year. Now, barring they stay healthy, what really killed Notre Dame last year is not only did they not have the guys at wide receiver, but then they're arguably their 2 top wide receivers last year got hurt, and Jay Greathouse and Jane Thomas. They weren't the same all year. Those guys stay healthy. I mean, you're going to see combinations where Bo Collins, Chris Mitchell, Jane Greathouse, Jane Thomas, Jordan Faison, Jane Harrison, like all those guys are going to be on the field. And Mike Denbrock's to be able to mix and match the way he utilizes those guys as well. Like Marcus Freeman, the biggest priority for him in the offseason, one of the reasons he hired Lauren Lando as the strength and conditioning coach was to increase Notre Dame's speed. It's exactly what Jaden Harrison has. Jordan Faison is that type of guy as well, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot faster Notre Dame offense this fall.
Let me ask you something. So let's say it's Notre Dame at Texas A&M. It's crunch time, baby. Notre Dame needs a score to win. And they're in 11 personnel. Okay, you got a running back there. Say they got Evans or Raritan, whichever tight end they have in there. They got 3 receivers. You got 2 out wide and 1 in the slot. Long way to ask, who are your dudes at the receiver position? I got to shut my door in a second here. So that's why I'm about to hop up. But you got 3 receivers, 2 outside and 1 in the slot. It's crunch time. Like, who are your lead receivers on this team?
Well, I wanted to ask you one more question, and that was if Notre Dame's in the red zone or not. So if Notre Dame was in the red zone, I'm going to answer this.
Full drive. Full drive.
Okay,
yeah, they're at the 50.
All right, they're at the 50. So I'm going to have Jordan Faison on the slot. Then I'm going to be putting Chris Mitchell out there. I'm also going to have, I hope Mitchell Evans is healthy, and Jane Thomas, based off what we saw yesterday. I mean, we didn't get to see Bo Collins. He was there in street clothes. He can't practice until the summer. But that's just where I feel best right now. And Jordan Faison and Jaden Greathouse are very, very similar. I mean, they are truly 1A, 1B in the slot.
Did you say similar?
Yeah, or in terms of like where they at, potential production. Yeah, I should have rephrased.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not similar body type for the way they play, but
no, it's.
In terms of how effective they can be, I think they're pretty comparable. And I just like Jaden Greathouse a little bit more. In like shorter spots, guy that can move the chains. Like that's why I was talking about red zone, like because you don't have a lot of field to work with compared to when you're at the 50-yard line. Whereas Jordan Faison spread the field, make guys miss, longer gain sort of thing. But yeah, that's my long-winded way of. Those are the 3 wide receivers I feel best at right now. But that's why I'm so excited about Notre Dame being able to put 4 wideouts out on the field, because I think they have the guys to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
like, we're going to see rotation at the wide receiver position. I don't think we hardly saw any of that last year and certainly the year prior.
Yeah. Yeah. E I think for the past 3 seasons, we've gone into, the fall, like, just like, look at these names at the receiver positions. There's so much excitement, and then it just does not deliver. Partly quarterback play, sure. Injuries, sure, but it j I mean, the guy it just has not worked. So I'm kinda, like, jaded there, but I'm buying in as well. Like, Devi in the chat says, Mitchell, Chris Mitchell, Bro Collins, and Faison, right? So then, you know, and then it's like, I would go with your 3, but swap Faison with Greathouse. That's just me. But of course, at times you're going to run 10 personnel where it is 4 receivers out there, and you don't even have a tight end, or you go empty. So yeah, there's a lot of reason for excitement there at the receiver position. So we're gonna
Mike,
move
let
along
me
to recruiting. Kyle,
one more thing.
dude, if you're gonna talk more about the team, you got 10 seconds. You got literally 10 seconds, or I'm gonna mute you. We really have to move on, my friend, because we've
Everyone's
spent 27
forgetting
minutes.
everyone's forgetting about Jane Thomas. I thought he was the best looking wide receiver yesterday, so don't forget about him.
Love Jaden Thomas from Atlanta Pace Academy. All right, 3 new predictions from Kyle Kelly this week. On3 had an RPM day where a lot of insiders logged predictions. I did not have my reasons, but Kyle did. We're going to go one by one. Kyle, give you a little bit of time to talk about each of these predictions. So Jack Lang from Missouri, 6'8", 275 pounds. Notre Dame has 3 offensive linemen committed. They hit their targets of 3, but Jack Lang is just one of those players that, if Jack Lang wants to commit, you're going to take that and do a cartwheel. So you logged a prediction. I logged one as well for him in January after he took that visit. What was your what do you think about Jack Lang's recruitment?
So when talking about these guys, I'm going to use different verbiage for why I made these picks. And with Jack Lang, I think he was the one I was most uncertain about, because I still don't have a good grasp if Notre Dame is going to take 4 offensive linemen.
Sorry.
If they do, Jack Lang has a spot. If they don't,
Oh,
well,
what if they're going to take 4?
yeah.
Yeah, they'll take if Jack Lang was commit, they'll take him.
So I think that if that's the case, he's Irish. I kind of outlined pretty clearly in my intel piece, which that's been out for a while now, so I don't mind sharing some of the information in there. But if you want to read the complete report, Mike showed that special we got running on at Blue and Gold right now, and just sign up for 2 months for $1, and you get all that information. We'll have you covered there. But the biggest thing with Jack Lang, like, I felt really confident coming out off his Notre Dame junior day visit in January that Notre Dame was far and away the number 1 team in his recruitment. And I know you logged a prediction for him coming off that visit. I still wanted to see how things played out a little bit more. We had to make 3 picks on Monday, and Jack Lang was one of the 3 guys I felt most confident in.
Yeah.
I did some more checking with sources after the fact, and I still think that Notre Dame is right up there with among the top teams in his recruitment. Now, we're not going to turn this to an Ohio State football recruiting show, but I will be curious to see how Ohio State fits into his recruitment, because Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, Florida, those types of schools, they all offered him after Lang went on his Notre Dame visit. Jack Lang did not include them in his top 6. He's down to Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Michigan, Ole Miss, Missouri, and I think there one more. Maybe the 6th one is Notre Dame. But Jack Lang's not a big SEC guy. Ohio State kind of operates like an SEC school, but Ohio State also has some shades of Notre Dame in it with the way they operate, believe it or not. So I'll be curious to see if they can get him up on campus. He's got a really heavy visit schedule this March, and I'm told that visit schedule is designed to add clarity to his decision,
Okay.
and unless things get more challenging, I expect him to shut things down sometime late this spring.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't heard a whole lot. I haven't asked sources about Lang, partly because like Notre Dame might lead right now, or they might be second or third. It doesn't really matter. Like if he's taking these visits, if he's taking 4 or 5 visits, like it doesn't really matter where you're at right now. It's like having a 10-7 lead in the second quarter. Like, okay, cool. You know, doesn't really mean you're going to win the game. So, yeah. Uh, I, all right, I'm just going to say what I'm thinking. If I were you and didn't have a prediction, I would not have logged the prediction just with those visits in mind. But if you needed to put some predictions out, and that was definitely these are the three that I would have pointed to as well. But yeah, like I again, partly because I haven't checked in a while on Lang with the visits coming up. It's like why even check? But um, even if I did, maybe I would get a little bit more confidence. But regardless, I know I'm kind of talking in circles here, Kyle. But yeah, I think Notre Dame leads, but you got these visits coming up. Damian Shanklin. Speaking of this Ohio State recruiting show, I'm kidding. Shanklin, we've been knowing for the longest time that Ohio State will be a huge offer for him. He got it. You're the Shanklin insider. He got that Ohio State offer. I believe it was yesterday or the day before. What are your thoughts on him getting this Ohio State offer? And you put in this prediction 4 days ago.
I said with my Lang pick, that was the one that made me feel the most uncertain. This my pick for Shanklin and Notre Dame is the one that makes me feel the most worried, and that is because Ohio State. That's something I outlined in my Intel story. Actually, I did that in a separate Intel story recapping my 3 picks, but I mentioned that Ohio State's a real player in this recruitment. Shanklin grew up as a Buckeye fan, and ironically, just knowing what I know about Ohio State, when it comes to out of state kids that say Ohio State is their dream school, Ohio State is incredibly unsuccessful at securing their commitments. Now,
Really?
yes, it's incredible.
Huh.
Um, so that's just
Any
something.
names? Sorry, not to cut you off. Any names like that fit that from a Notre Dame standpoint in recent years?
Oh, that Notre Dame was their dream school and they didn't commit.
Yeah. Or no, 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 no. Like this example, like a Damon Shanklin or a Zachary or something like that. That Notre Dame was recruiting, like names that we would know, like that fit that example you just gave.
For Notre Dame.
No, no, for Ohio State.
So guys that Notre Dame's targeting that
All right,
Ohio
let's
State.
just start over. So you just said like Ohio State fans outside of the Buckeye State. The Buckeyes have been extremely unsuccessful signing those guys, right?
Yeah, that yeah.
What
Recruits
names
that
like Shanklin, Zachary, who else? I'm
it
just
would be
curious if you know
most.
anyone off the top of your head because that's fascinating. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it would be previous guys in the 22 and 23 classes, and these aren't guys that were Ohio State Notre Dame battles. It's more
Okay,
so Ohio State against the SEC, which is why those guys have ended up elsewhere based off their
okay,
competition. But I feel like most of the Notre Dame Ohio State battles have come with prospects located in the state of Ohio, and the Buckeyes almost always close on their targets from the Buckeye State. Now, I will transition this by saying that Damian Shanklin is sort of an exception to the dream school curse at Ohio State because he's located in Indianapolis. Now, I don't know, I don't have enough background to know how the whole dream school thing works out with, um, you know, Indianapolis guys, but I think it's a little bit different just because they are so much closer. And, Indianapolis, I mean, just kind of from what I'm gathered, is a lot of Ohio State fans there and a lot of Notre Dame fans there. So this is the one we've been watching for a while with Damian Shanklin. And the thing with Notre Dame that they're going to keep coming back to in this recruitment is we've recruited you for 8 months longer. And that's been the case. And from what I know about Ohio State defensive line coach Larry Johnson, he is very particular about the guys that he recruits and who he stays in touch with. And I'm not getting the sense that Ohio State was that involved in Damian Shanklin before he visited on Thursday and picked up the offer.
Yeah. I just pulled
So
up his, Kyle, I just pulled up his recruiting center page, visit center. Was that his own there's no way that was his only visit, right?
yeah, no, it was only visit to Ohio State, which is why this recruitment is so fascinating.
Whereas Notre Dame, he's already been there 4 times, and he's got an official lined up, we believe. It's just not marked here yet, but and he'll be there in the spring. He's got officials to Tennessee and Texas lined up. Um, I gave my thoughts about Shanklin, or excuse me, Lang a minute ago. I have not logged a Shanklin prediction yet. Kyle's the only one who has done so. I mean, I this is someone I've been asking sources about for months, like kind of getting their thoughts on a prediction and whatnot. And it just seems like one of those that it's gonna stretch into the fall, if I believe. Kyle. Yes, Kyle's nodding, so it's stretch into the
Fall,
fall.
late fall.
Um, I don't know, man. This just seems like it has twists and turns. I think Notre Dame is certainly the team to beat right now, but when you're taking officials to Tennessee and Texas as an indie kid, there's I don't know, man. I don't know. But you also follow the visits. And if the 2 he has lined up take place, that's 6. 6 going back to last October. That's a lot of visits. So I don't know. I think it's a good projection pick, just like the guy we're going to talk about next was when I did that one in August. But yeah, you weren't ready to put in one for Zachary last August. You were like, oh man, I think this is 50-50 between Notre Dame and Ohio State. That's kind of where I'm at with Shanklin right now. But we can move on to that next player if you don't have anything else to add on Shanklin.
Just the one final thought is you started to say it. I mean, this recruitment is possibly going to drag out until November, and there are going to be a lot of twists and turns along the way. And I think the things that are going to work in Notre Dame's favor is I've already mentioned the first one, how long they've recruited him. Um, there is a sense that I don't know if Damian Shanklin would prefer to stay close to home, but I think that's where he may feel most comfortable. So that's working in Notre Dame's favor, and as are their academics. Education seems to be an important factor in Shanklin's recruitment, or at least it was when I talked to him extensively back in the fall about it.
Okay. So Kyle's other prediction he did on Monday, I believe that was Mark Zachary from Indy Ben Davis. I think we've talked about him more than just about anyone on this show. And my recruiting updates with Darren Pritchett during the week. He's got spring unofficial and summer official top 4: Florida, Michigan, Notre Dame, Cincinnati. He's going to plan to visit all those schools. Will be at Notre Dame later this month. So I don't want to dive into Zachary's recruitment too much, but I always like to look. Some folks, we have close to 140 people watching live with us right now. We'll have thousands more watch back. Not everyone has heard what I'm about to say. I was watching what's the NFL Network guy? Man, Peter
Emmanuel
Schrager.
Jeremiah.
I was watching Peter Schrager on a TikTok, and he was like, sometimes when you make predictions, because he predicted 3 years in a row the correct Super Bowl, he was like, you have to pat yourself on the back when you call stuff because no one else will. So I was like, you know what? Damn right. So I'm going to go through my August predictions, my heater, bro. I've been covering recruiting for a long time. I've never gone on a heater like this. Jerome Bettis last August. I could have logged that one earlier, but just wanted to make sure, I just took my time with that one. I knew he wasn't deciding anytime soon, early last year. So Jerome Bettis, still like where Notre Dame's at there. James Flanagan, I think I beat the entire industry on that pick. Maybe not, but maybe. I don't know. I don't know, actually. So I'm going to take that back, but may have. So that was in August. He committed a couple months later, 2-3 months later. Yeah, something like that. Ivan Taylor was one, bro, that was like whoa, Ivan Taylor? He committed to Notre Dame in December. Logging that pick in August was ballsy. Love that. Mark Zachary was the one in August that I was like, bro, I really don't like this pick, but it's a projection. Notre Dame sources love this. We're going to do it. You know, I think he's going to commit to Notre Dame before the start of his senior season. I still feel like that pick's in a good spot. I don't think he's going to Florida. I don't think he's going to Cincinnati. And Michigan. I don't know. I don't know, but I like where the Irish are at. Daniel Anderson in August committed a month later. Ethan Long, August prediction committed in January. I thought that was a damn good pick. Owen Streebig in August committed to Notre Dame in February. Matty Augustine picked that in August, committed to Notre Dame just a few weeks ago. And then the miss. The miss is a big one. The Dorian Brew Ryan Wingo one, or Ryan Wingo. I had him picked to Notre Dame early, so then I just changed it because I didn't want people to go on Ryan Wingo's page and see. I mean, this was months. I mean, early in 2023 or late 2022 or something. I did Wingo to Notre Dame, and I just flipped it to Texas or Missouri, and I think he ended up at Texas. I just wanted to get it off of Notre Dame. The one that I picked for Notre Dame in August that didn't work out was just happened to be the quarterback position, and when I'm in your city, Notre Dame fans, take me out to a bar, get a couple whiskey and cokes in me, and then ask me about why I put in that prediction, and I'll tell you. J. Carr says, priority QB Bear Bachmeyer. That's a good one.
Oh, man.
Tell me you're a longtime listener of the show without telling me you're a longtime listener of the show. There you go. Debbie says, I still can't drink, Mike. Well, yeah, good point. Maybe some chocolate milk and some cookies, maybe some Taco Bell, and maybe I'll loosen up a little bit. But okay. Anything else you want to add on Zachary before we move on? We're already 41 minutes in. I think we got like 2 more topics. So, and anything else on that front?
My phrase with Zachary is it's one I felt most confident in. I was with you in August. I thought he was going to end up at Notre Dame. Didn't want to make my pick public. I asked Zachary if I could. He said yes. So I'll take his seal of approval as a good sign for Notre Dame's chances.
Yeah. So I often, I'd say like 70% of the time when I do a prediction, I will make sure it's good with the prospect. Maybe the 30% of the time that I don't is if someone else has already logged a prediction for him. At that point, I feel like it's kind of a free game. But like Dallas Golden, I think I've told you the story. In August of 22, I wanted to predict him to Notre Dame, and he was a freshman at the time. And I was like, no, let's not do that. So I was fine with that. Like I asked his dad. His dad was like, oh, it's early. And I think Golden got some predictions to Notre Dame not too long ago. I think at the other network, Golden was not happy about it from what I was told. Not to get into, stuff that's really not that important. But so some predictions, like some kids just don't like it. And I'm going to respect that. I think that's definitely part of the reason I still haven't put in a prediction for him to go to Notre Dame. It's not his favorite. Like the predictions, some kids hate him. So regardless, what were we just talking about before I went on that tangent? Was this something important?
I was finishing up my thoughts on Zachary before we transitioned, and you were talking about my last thought was I waited on my Zachary pick because I wanted him to sign off on it, and he did.
Yeah, and Wingo signed off on it for me to pick him to Notre Dame. Justin Scott when I initially did. So it's not a lock when they say, hey, yeah, you can do that prediction. It's okay. So just want to throw that out there as well. All right. Quickly, Kyle. I'm not even going to give you time to talk about this. Actually, I will. I'll give you a minute because you saw some of the recruits on campus. But Notre Dame had a handful of visitors. I want to go through these guys real quick. Colgate transfer running back Max Hurlman, like a preferred walk-on kind of guy. If he were to transfer to the Irish, special teamer. I think that would kind of be his extent. Robbie Wallen, a preferred walk-on offensive lineman in the 2024 class. He announced his commitment to Notre Dame today. Kyle had that story. Check that out at blueandgold.com. Owen Streebig, offensive line commit, was there. You had a couple of linebackers from Lakota West in Ohio, Grant Bierman and Cam Thomas. Dominic Kelly, Tampa Robinson, he announced an offer from Notre Dame after visiting 2026 cornerback. Mikhail Blade, I believe, made it in, the defensive end from Illinois. And then Joey O'Brien, this 2026 safety from Pennsylvania. I'm telling you, folks, keep an eye on him. I'm telling you, just like screenshot this. Just Jot the name down. I think that Joey O'Brien is going to be a huge Notre Dame target. I think I'm probably going to end up predicting him to Notre Dame. I like just that recruitment is kind of give me like Peter Jones vibes. It's early, but Peter Jones is my favorite prediction I ever did. I predicted him to Notre Dame before he got the offer, and I know I'm probably sounding like a douche, patting myself on the back so much. I don't want to hurt myself, but that might be another one where I predict pretty early to Notre Dame, but got to make some calls first and make sure it's okay. But real quick thoughts on these guys. I know, dude, some of the videos you guys took Streebig's in the back. You can see his big self, hanging out. Any impressions of seeing these guys at practice Thursday?
One thought on Streebig is he's cut down a lot of weight, or as it or kind of looks like it since his junior season. So I find that interesting. I haven't really asked him the thought process behind that yet, but that's something I'm going to talk to him about. And then I talked to the Lakota West guys, Grant Bierman and Cam Thomas, after their visits. Those stories will run this weekend on Blue and Gold. Both fascinating recruitments. With Grant Bierman, he's told me a number of times that he's on the Tabron Benny Powell and Ben Minnick path.
Yep.
Both of his former teammates, where his potential for a Notre Dame offer is going to come in June when he camps, and that's exactly what Benny Powell and Minnick did. But the other thing about both their recruitments was Notre Dame was getting their target board was getting super light at that time. At those positions where linebacker, they got a number of guys there, so that'll be fascinating to watch. Cam Thomas will be at the Irish Invasion, Notre Dame's unpublicized like premier high school camp, and he thinks he's going to get an offer then. I imagine if he tests well, he will, because he's already got some premier, as I like to call them, core four scholarship offers.
Love it. Love it. So there you go. Kind of a sneaky good visitor week, or excuse me, visitor day for Notre Dame, offering Kelly, no relation to the great Kyle Kelly, but yeah, um, offered him. I think Notre Dame's going to be mixed there. I talked to him yesterday, Kyle. I'll have a story, and I'm also planning to talk to Streebig. I interviewed Brian, and you know who else I'm trying to get an interview with, Kyle? Sean Terry. I know that's going to be your guy, but we still
Go
haven't been
for
able
it.
to talk to him since he committed to Notre
Go
Dame.
for
So I know
it.
I'm doing my
I
best.
love my guy Sean. Sean's not a media guy, but Sean, I'm going to be coming down to see you in Ironton pretty soon. We'll chop it up.
Yeah.
Good kid.
Wicked Bronco Production said, Mike, you get so much crap. Take your victory laps. And I responded, I don't think I get that much crap. And he said, well, people yell at you for pronunciation. I do get yelled at in the comments about pronunciation, for some towns. Then Kyle for last names. So that's funny. Andrew says, I like that Mike doesn't log the pick after he finds out the decision. Yeah, Burris is one that I found out he was silent. Actually, I was like kind of make some calls like, hey, should I do this prediction? And it was like, yes. And I was like, and then I found out he was a silent. I was like, I'm not going to do that prediction. I don't know if cheating is the right word, but it's something. All right, last we're going to end the show with Kyle. I'm sure you saw this poll. Now the context is really important of this poll. Is what grade do you give Notre Dame's 2025 recruiting efforts / class so far? The efforts part is what everyone who commented on this thread at blueandgold.com, use promo code UND1, $1 for 2 months for new subscribers. People are missing the efforts part. So it's the 17 commits, right? I think it's 17, plus their efforts. In other words, the guys that they're trending with, like we like Notre Dame for Bettis and Zachary and Shanklin and Lang. So taking into account like Notre Dame might land these guys as well, what grade do you give where Notre Dame recruiting in 2025 is overall? What did you kind of lean on? Like what were your thoughts on this whole discussion?
So I voted incorrectly because I chose B plus.
Why is
Because
that incorrect?
because I said, or in my mind, I was thinking that I read it really fast, which I tend to do a lot of times. But I voted as if like the current outcome of the class, like
Well,
so which
like just the 17, you're saying?
yeah, the guys that the guys they've gotten so far, like kind of putting into account the guys they've missed on as well, and the guys they're still recruiting, like who they lead for and that whole sort of thing. So that's why I went with B plus. But now that I know the actual meaning behind the question,
Yeah.
I'm going with an A.
Yeah.
Um, and the reason I'm going first off, I will say I'm not going with an A plus because in my mind, if it was A plus, we're talking about like Notre Dame's all in on like all these 5 stars and everything like that, which certainly isn't the case at this point. But I'm going with A because they are still in the mix for a lot of top 100 guys, whether that be the linebackers, Madden Faramo, Nathaniel Usu-Boateng, Damian Shanklin, you mentioned, Mark Zachary. Both those guys are top 100 guys, depending on the network. I know Zachary's a consensus top 100 guy. Jack Lang, I think, is a top 100 guy in places. So anyway, they are in on a number of those guys. And my biggest point from your question here is I think that having a commitment from Deuce Knight automatically gives you a grade higher than like if he weren't going to be in the class. Like if Notre Dame quarterback recruiting was a disaster right now, potentially, or if they had Bear Bachmeier, which is an extremely solid option, I think this class would be a B. But since they landed Deuce Knight, I think that automatically gives it a grade up for me, and that's why I like an A.
Okay. Um, Andrew said, "I don't like the word efforts. Isn't every top 15 program working hard?" Yeah. So, words have different meanings. So, you look up the definition of effort, you have a vigorous or determined attempt. Um, or what?
Boy, I think the last time we brought definitions up on
Don't do it. Don't do it. Or like the result of an attempt. So, like, or results, present tense. So it's maybe effort's not the best choice of words, but it's more about like again where things are trending, like the work that they've put in. No, I'm not saying like how let's give them a round of applause for working really hard. No, that's not what I meant by efforts. It was, um, yeah, it's like how they're recruiting. So my answer was I did vote for Ken Rockney, which is a board inside joke, but I said I think A or A minus. It's a pretty damn good class committed, and they have a chance to make it special. So yeah, if they just signed this 17 and called it a day, you know, yeah, that wouldn't be great. But if the entire 2025 recruiting cycle just stopped right now and they signed the number 5 class, kidding me? Like, I think everyone would hoot and holler and be pretty damn excited. Of course, that's not going to happen. So, I think looking at projected, like who they can get, I think you have a lot of reason to be excited. I mean, I wrote that Gold Standard article Monday, a stock report 5 that Notre Dame looks good for 5. I think they're starting to maybe the guys are trending away from Notre Dame. I put Owusu Boateng in the Notre Dame's trending for. I mean, I think you got to be pretty darn excited right now. So yeah, so there you go. So we're in agreement there, Kyle. Very rare occurrence. I'm kidding. So yeah, we're gonna sign off today's show. Kyle, you brought it as always and carried the beginning of the show for sure. So I appreciate that. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this YouTube video. Subscribe to our channel for more content. Use that promo code UND1 if you are looking to subscribe to blueandgold.com. Again, $1 for 2 months for new subscribers only. So I would hope that you guys would consider that. Yeah, blueandgold.com. Podcast audience, appreciate you as well. Leave us a nice review wherever you listen to your podcast if you have not done so yet. I'm Mike Singer. He's Kyle Kelly. As always, folks, we will catch you next time.